You guys are good to start the meeting.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
I'll make it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So tonight's meeting is just for agenda, the work session. And I'm going to start with the superintendent's office with Adam. And I think just as a general rule, and Adam's going to follow Adam's lead. But, you know, when you get up to give your budget, you don't have to go line by line. If you have something specific that's new that you want to add, please tell us. But you don't have to go through every painstaking line.
Can I ask one question, and I may have missed it? Have we talked about the overall framework of the budget at all?
No, maybe Adam wants to.
I mean, I
step
would
in.
like, I just feel like, you know, I don't want to start line by line without having any sort of overall guidance from Isabel.
Do we have to cut?
Yeah, just, can you give us like an overall view of the budget before we start going there? Just whatever.
Let me give this I'm going to read the statement on kind of the foundation, and then I'll turn it over to Isabel to give over like the numbers. This is a general statement based on kind of how we started the philosophically to build.
Perfect.
And then she could go give you more detail.
Right.
So this budget was put together through multiple meetings with district and building level administration with the input of key personnel. The objective was to stay below the 2% tax cap while maximizing our instructional program. Our goals focused on safety, security, transportation, and improved organizational systems. The budget presentations that the board will see over the next month will also present them with supplemental items for their consideration. In the past, this was described as wish list items. This preliminary budget does remain or attempt to remain under the 2% tax cap. It is much tighter in prior years. At this point, I am happy to say we are continuing to maintain what we have and not cutting our programs or our staff. I'll let Isabel talk about some of the details of why it's tight and whatnot.
Okay, well, at this point, we are close to 74 million, but we are above $100,000. We need to cut $100,000. When I came into the budget, we had a problem with the electrical code, but this has been partially resolved, and I'm very pleased to report that the monthly expenditure of the year has gone to half. So that gave us the leeway, and we still have to follow up on that, okay? But it gave us the leeway that we can cut the budget for the year about in half. And at this point, we still have $100,000.
The budget of what in half? The electrical?
Yeah.
So there was a
The
problem.
problem was that between Johnson Control and PGC, you know, the electric company, there was a miscommunication in the electric or in the communication how the electricity is going from the sun to where the energy is supposed to be to. So this is very simplistic, but by not going into where you put our energy, it would go to PSEG. So our bills were coming out extremely high, and the truth is that some investigation still have to follow up.
So our solar, you're talking about solar?
Mhm.
So our solar energy was not going to us, it was going directly?
It was still operating in test mode. I think we brought that up in the past months ago.
Yes.
We thought that was rectified, that the energy was being processed and made to benefit our district. It was going and sitting in test mode. Therefore, they were charging us electrical use at our regular rate, even though we were accumulating energy. So what Isabel did, and thanks to all of her hard work, she got on Johnson Controls, and basically they found out where this energy was not going. Of course, PSE&G would, or whatever, would not let us know that this was happening. We had to figure it out. So the energy we figured it out, we moved it over, and then we've credited some things.
I don't know if they have the ability. I am not sure.
Yeah,
Probably they do.
speculating.
However, Johnson Controls, when everybody got together, so they could rectify that. At this point, they are supposed to give us a credit for electricity on weekends only. So at this point, I need to contact Johnson Controls again to see where we are with that. But the net is that at this point, the bills are half Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Which
I said,
we'd always anticipated, but we just didn't know when they would actually turn it on. It's been years.
yeah.
It's been years. So now we can turn it on.
Yeah, so I mean, this has alleviated part of the problem. I mean, the budget has, the payroll is usual from year to year, it has about $1 million plus. We are in negotiation, it's very important. We have to cover that part. The the medical went up 12%.
Right.
Then you
Big
have the TRS that is at 10.29. The ERS went down, all of them, which is ever, significant. Special ed has, I think, a student more. So the special ed is going up a little bit. So the only thing that the budget at this point does not carry is transfer to capital. Because it is important to understand what happened here last year. Last year, because we had a prior year approval from the taxpayers to take money from the reserve, the capital reserve.
Right.
This, they had to put a transfer to capital to the equivalent plus $1 million to do the kitchen and the tennis court, right? Okay, so what happens is that the directive, I assume it was last year, that they had to be within the cap. So when you increase about 2 million one, the transfer to capital and keep it under the 2%, you have to take money away from a lot of places. That's why I found that the payrolls accounts were, depleted. Concerned that by the end of the year, we might be very close to use all the funds. We are in the moving mode at this point. So I said to Adam and I said to Tim, I think that you still have a lot of things open in the capital project. You have the transportation, you have a field that has to be done, the monies are encumbered. There is a lot going, a lot of loose ends. So it probably the best would be that this year, keep it at 0 and finish everything you have, balance the budget again. And next year, under the discussions of the facility committee and the board, let's see what you want to do next.
Right.
You know what I mean? Obviously, this is something that the board has to decide on. But if you want to put money in the transfer to capital, then most likely you will have to consider 60%.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, I think, and I want to second that. My recommendation is to continue to finish our current existing projects that have already been
Take a
funded.
breath.
Take a break from, pulling or placing money into the capital reserve this year. We do have an agenda item a proposition that will be creating a repair reserve, which has nothing to do with the capital reserve.
Right.
It's for emergencies. We fund that as we deem necessary. It's just to have that. I think pausing what we have right now and utilizing the next year to catch up, to see where we are, is
We've got to
the
recoup
best.
from the COVID costs and the other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty out
We are
there. and-
using this fund. This
Yeah.
year has been extraordinary. The overtime is like this. So what the predecessor did is that they were going to divide the funds in 3 years. But, we have so much overtime coming in.
Yeah.
What is the point of pushing to 3 years and then I'm gonna throw this budget into negative? So we are using the COVID money.
Right.
To hope, because you would like to end up in a position where you can put money into the maintenance reserve.
Mhm.
So if you're using the accounts, you are not gonna have any money to put there. You know what I mean?
So I got a couple of points and questions to make. The tax cap is at 2%,
Well, the directive from
and it
you.
wasn't that last year was lower,
Yeah,
but inflation was lower too. Now, inflation is what, 4.7? Okay, what drives the budget? Okay, inflation will have
Mhm.
a negative impact.
Yeah.
State aid, all this money that has come into the state and coming to school is not coming to us, right?
no.
We
We're
got
not getting very much more in state aid.
163,000.
Yeah, we just heard that like the Riverhead School District was awash in funds from the state. We're not.
No,
Okay. Increase enrollment. We had we had increased enrollment this year.
Yes.
Are we gonna have declining enrollment or increasing?
No, I think we're gonna maintaining. I think where we are, we're gonna maintain.
So
Yeah,
that's not a factor,
Yep.
but it's, in my mind, it's unfair with inflation being at 4%, with us not having declining enrollment, and the tax cap being at 2%, it's squeezing us too much.
Yeah.
It is.
I think we're at a point where we're squeezed. I do think, I personally think at this moment in time, we are being squeezed, but we are fine to maintain our current program and without piercing. I do not think we, at this point, I don't know if Isabel, we've talked about it. I think, with what we've done budgeting, I think we're fine.
Do we have all of the information that we need with respect? I know sometimes we get like numbers on like TRS and all of that. Do we have all of those numbers now?
Yes,
So even given those increases,
yes. Actually, what's that? We got a reduction because actually the number to the TRS came at 10 and a half. So then they brought it down to 10.29. And that decreased the budget, believe it or not, 168,000.
that was good.
Yeah, of course, that was
Yeah.
wonderful. Then in the ERS, also that went down a couple of hundreds because we are down to 8.3. We are, the highest is the tier 6 that they are at 10 something from 18. So, there are positive, but there are also, you gotta understand, which I've been trying to tell them, that what drives the budget is the payroll. The payroll is what drives the budget.
85% of our budget, yeah?
70, yeah. See, if the more people you're gonna have, plus depends what you have in those contracts, they're gonna give you that salary that in turn, boom, go down here, social security, retirement, health. So that grows exponentially like the, and so it is important to watch the movement of that.
Right.
Now we are working on negotiations on that. So you hope that you keep some leverage within, because otherwise it's going to get to a point that it's going to be very difficult to put a budget together. It will.
So as we stand today, you think we would need to cut from what is being presented to us about 100,000 district-wide?
We have to be under the 2%, we have to.
So out of all
Can
of
we
it,
do
all-
it?
then over the next few meetings,
Yeah.
when we're looking at these numbers,
Yeah.
100,000 is what
We
we have
can,
to
we
come
we
down.
can present our ideas, and you can challenge those ideas.
Mhm.
So if we say, take it from here, I would expect you to give us an argument, either yes, pro or con about that idea.
You can also look, we've built in, so just in an effort to be completely transparent, we have a number of retirements. You saw it on the last board agenda. Those are placeholders in the
Yes.
budget. If we don't fill or replace and are able to maintain, that's we've budgeted a certain amount of money there that easily offsets that. We could get another 2 retirements. We don't know. The first deadline passed, it could be subsequent retirements. Those things could conceivably happen up until we generate a final budget, thus taking care of, what we need.
But I don't believe we're overstaffed. No, but if we
No.
had declining enrollment, or we were overstaffed, when you get retirements, you should challenge each position. I think we should do that
Always.
anyway.
Yeah,
Always.
Challenge each position.
Repurpose, that's what we're doing. We're looking at, when Tim and I looked at it, we're looking at positions with the principals and we're repurposing positions, not extending or expanding positions. So if you see we need to hire, we know last year, we talked about it, we couldn't hire a family consumer science teacher. We tried our best. We couldn't. With the new kitchen, it took away from our program. We got to go out and find, now our program's expanded more. We have to try to find that position. So that position we didn't have a retirement in that area, so we're repurposing, moving over there. So those are the things we're looking at. Elementary, same thing. Middle school, same thing. It's definitely tighter than it's been, but I don't see it as not doable. I think we'll get there. I don't think we're in a position, I'm not, panicking that we're gonna have to come back and what's a decision to pierce the cap is March,
March 1st.
yeah, I don't think,
Actually, you went to the controls office and you put it down,
yeah,
but it's not final until further in.
Yeah.
So is there are we gonna be presented with any supplemental requests for things, options this
Yeah.
year?
Yes,
well-
yes, you mean what, the wish,
Yeah,
the wish list, yes.
Just so I'm clear too, that, can the electric bill maybe alleviate this 100,000? Is that possible? Or we don't
No,
know
it wouldn't go down. I mean, originally the amount, because the way the code behaved this year,
Right,
I budgeted $800,000.
right.
But now we cut it down to 400 because
So,
it's supposed to be,
right.
they told us that we were going to have a savings on that when we were about 600,000. And that's what it showed the last budget that I did here before this one. Because when I called Johnson Control, said, but. So then he put the same amount of money in the following year, which was 550. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? This is crazy.
okay,
So anyway, we're gonna get there and it's gonna work well. We will find a solution to that. I'm not worried. Okay, so we'll
well,
get,
and in all honesty, if we don't make the savings that we have, Johnson Controls has to make the difference,
Right.
correct?
well,
Yeah,
this is like, you're gonna have, if, we see, they are very careful when they come in
Mhm.
and they make all these appraisals, investigation, and you're gonna have the saving as long as you compare,
usage,
Apples to apples.
usage.
yeah, apples to apples.
But if your usage goes up, then you're paying
All
for it.
right.
But that's
Yeah, but they
fair.
can, I mean, it hasn't happened, but they can come to me and say, whoa, you had 20 computers now you have 100.
Right.
Then you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what they're looking at. However, the state is very, very careful. They review, it took forever to get approved, you know
Yes,
that.
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. About,
All right, so in an effort to present these, my office budget went down. Generally, my budget includes, obviously the Board of Education, the district clerk, my budget. Most of them are memberships and PD and stuff that we have to do. Like New York school boards, things that we do training wise, reimbursables for board members, which are tiny, small amounts, in the budget. We didn't add anything to the budget. There are things Kerry needs to do as a district clerk. In fact, we're looking, down the road possibly to increase this. We put supplemental items for us of basically, I think we put like 5,000 extra down the road. If it gets approved, would be supplemental for us, would be to just increase some trainings and availabilities. There's a lot of things that have been going on law-wise, legal-wise that Kerry needs to attend, and to a certain extent, so do I. So, those type of things were kind of giving us a little more flexibility in our presentation. But as you can see, it's pretty much basic.
So it's down about 2.9%?
Yeah, we're down a little bit. We took down some, yeah. Mine's about, my office is down to 2.8 and Carrie's is down 6.8. Most of them are, it's,
I see,
yeah,
yes.
it's really not, not much of this one.
no,
This is tiny.
Yeah.
yeah, and just so the public knows, I mean, we've been through this line item by line item, and it started before I was here. I think most of that work had been done even before I got here. We still want to be transparent about how we present the budget, but to go through it line by line, just, you can see any of it that you'd like to. You can look at any of the budget that you'd like to look at. It's not a secret by any sense, and overall, we just want to know where we are.
All right, so in the spirit of finding the $100,000, I would like to recommend that the school Board of Education budget our budget is at 54,205. It didn't go down. I would like to find at least 3 or 4% cut in that.
Ours is membership, so I don't think we can,
Yeah.
because we don't, and none of us get any money.
I know, I don't,
Well, no, but I mean, like, here's the thing.
Is there any, supplies,
I
travel and conference?
I want to recommend that because, in the end, there are expenditures that happen that are tied to the budget vote and election. And if I can't cover it in my codes, I go to the Board of Education code for whatever, for reserve. So at the end of the year, what's left in the Board of Education code isn't much.
Look, I think what we can do, because just back to the old days when we had to cut a lot. And I think there are things in the back of our pocket that we can sort of revisit. Like, so for example, we could do a 1-year freeze. I know people don't like this on like anything but mandatory conference attendance, and we'd get some money on that. That's, we can go across and cut conferences from every single budget. But I think that we can kind of keep that in our back pocket for now and see.
And
what
there's
we can
usually,
do.
it's usually
There's
larger
things,
expenditures in other budgets for.
That's what I'm
for
saying, like,
buses. It might be one less bus.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm
This year,
saying.
there's money, and to be honest, rather than taking from building and these budgets, Cindy's and Tiffany's budgets amended, there's inherent flexibility in Tim Fromm's budget as assisted soup. It was there when I used it, and I repurposed it. So if we used it, that's what we used to cover COVID expenses last year before we had reimbursables, because we didn't know we were getting the money. So we weren't running PD. We have PD money. We obviously need to develop our instructional, program and continue to grow. Those type of things, which I'm not saying aren't important, they can be delayed. They're not, the schools are running. I mean, what's going on in the school leadership is excellent. And this year, it's really been this return to this regular school program. There are things in Tim's budget that can, and Tim, you always keep that in your back pocket to repurpose for that, like Kerry said, because she's got to make sure certain things come up. So we don't. I would rather take it, obviously, like John said. I think the idea and the philosophy is right. I think Tim's got to take a hit for this. That's about it. We can. And just to let you know,
82%.
Wait.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And without further ado, the assistant superintendent, Tim.
All right. Well, yeah, you're right there.
I think I covered it for you, huh?
So yes, so there's a big item here that really, kind of stands out, and we presented this at academic committee a couple of times. So the elementary reading program, the philosophy of balanced literacy, is well received and well supported. The material, the program that they actually use, is just at the end of its shelf life. So that is really $250,000 to $275,000. It's a 5-year deal. It's a one-time hit. What the committees have really looked at it, and I'm so happy because it put a lot of people in a great place to discuss what they want to see. With not just the last 2 years of online learning and a lot of stuff, is the materials have been updated to really reflect both the medium, whether it's the online piece, the dual language component in Spanish. So this is a big ticket item, but it's a one-time thing that's really a 5-year thing.
Which, if we were allowed to pay for it over 5 years.
And that's
your
where
budget
we're
would not
still,
look
as
like
Adam
this.
was saying,
Right.
it is, we're at the final stages of getting the quotes. There is the possibility. I don't think that's what they're going to do, because the majority of it is physical materials that have to be shipped.
Right.
This is not a heavy training program. Like, we're not shipping philosophies. We're going to get training from the producer, the publisher, because it's just a different product, but it's not you need to be taught how to teach this stuff, because this is how they do it. I did keep in the staff development budget a bunch of money in there that was pre-existing to bring some of our newer staff up to par, with this. In that staff development money, there's also, a $25,000 increase. It's not really an increase, it's a shift, because in the previous year that was under contractual as pay. So this is kind of where the curriculum development and other stuff has been in the past. So there used to be 4 items on here, but now.
So last year it was 47.4 in that budget code, and this year it's $375,000, which is
$275.
So why isn't that in the elementary budget?
What we decided a handful of years back was to kind of have the elementary propose it, vet it, and then bring it through the assistant superintendent's office, so that there's like another layer of just kind of double checking if they're getting stuff. So the elementary or middle high school, for example, may want textbooks or something. So they vet it at the building level, and then they bring it up there. So there's a little control that they're not just buying textbooks without us knowing about it. So that's been probably, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, 5-6 years now that's been kind of trickling
Maybe
up
even
here.
more, yeah.
Just as they let the buildings look at the new courses, for example. They propose a new course that, goes through the academic committee, then they bring a book up, and then there's a kind of checks and balance to make sure that goes, that's not just bought book after book after book. I think we looked at one set of books and the committee said, well, maybe this isn't the time for this book. And it kind of paused it right there. Back to the elementary, when I look at the big number there, 327, it's not, somewhat unfortunate. The math program is just their contract expires at the same year. So that's a renewal as well of roughly
This year and next.
That's this year. That's roughly 60,000. Again, that program has been well received. It doesn't require intensive training again, but the digital platform that goes on there, and a lot of the publishers have taken advantage of this. You only get the license for so long. So, do you want a kid to have a book and you can have it for as long as you collect it? Someone like Pat Hope would chase you down to your house and say, where's my book? You can't do that with the digital licenses. So there's kind of in that cat and mouse game with the publishers that you only get the license for so long. So I do recommend we do a 3-year license with the math as opposed to a 5-year. So we stagger this moving forward.
Right.
This is the reading program will be a new program altogether. Same philosophy, but just a different, in a publisher and whatnot. So the math, I think we're under 4th or 5th year there. So renewing it one more cycle, and then we kind of vet, if we want to go in different directions. So that's the ugly presentation of this is a big nut. I know Adam set me up brilliantly to say there's a lot of stuff here. A lot of the staff development, the 160, a lot of that is the kind of teacher center, BOCES, programs that exist in general. Equipment is also in there. We did have money for the mental health initiative in there. We also had money for, to support the dual language program. These things, they're there, at the end of the year, we look at it, Isabel takes it quickly when it's not used, but if when we need to get to the nitty gritty of something, if we need to cut something, as we presented, that would probably be, one of the areas that we can say, okay, hold up.
Yeah, and you know what, Tim, I want to speak, and JP brought up, I want to say we put that mental health in because we were fearful of it going through the state budget. The bottom line is, and again, with the state being awash in money and speaking to Fred Deal, things are going, we also have received a number of donations in-house. If that ended up being an area, we could take that away without seeing any blip. That money,
So
not even a blip. Like you could take that money and I could cover that money with our private funds and our extracurricular many times over. That we're not going to.
I just want to make sure we don't do anything that.
No,
I would never as is. The only really the only addition was the John Marshall reading and math program, with one other exception. The special programs, that's a summer school budget. We did put 10,000 in there, anticipating that there may be, either extra needs or, salary adjustments. So that's really the 10,000 is a placeholder if we had a regular full-blown summer program. Now, if the state comes back and we don't have Regents exams and all this other stuff, again, the summer program could be changed.
I was looking at that I was circling the Regents proctoring and the Regents prep.
Yeah, a lot of that changes, and that's where this past year we had a lot of extra, we had the money budgeted because we run those programs, and if you don't budget for it, we're in a problem, So we will know probably, idealistically in March. I don't think it'll be March. It'll probably be April that they say that the Regents are happening or not, and that changes a lot of that summer programming budget.
Tim, do you think that when Isabel, and we know the codes are frozen, and when we're kind of looking to what we put in the reserves, do you think the elementary reading program could be something that we purchase with funds this year in an effort to take out the money for next year? Do you think are we going to be able to do that? I don't know.
I don't think we're going to find 200,000 for the elementary reading program this year.
It's too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had chatted about that, and that's exactly what it is about.
It's too soon because the money comes usually from the fuel. So we are not over the winter.
And snow removal, which we've had some, so,
Then, there are some codes, but you see, for instance, the beauty of this is that, for instance, we've had $10,000. For the next time, you and I, that we're gonna come in here already with other things that are the equivalent, but then that we're gonna get to this number that we feel nervous about. We're gonna get there. Don't worry about it. Okay. But there are things. For instance, I know in the custodial, my God, everybody wants one of those machines to clean the floor. What the hell do you do with the
Floor
machine?
furniture.
You know, I mean, it's like.
Right on.
Yeah, we've had a lot of those over the years.
Out. So I'm
We do
gonna go
need
there.
them,
Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate to the board that we are fine, like we will find, this is really nothing, we didn't want to take this money away before you saw
That's right.
it. And I
The
think
summer
that
school
was-
budget could be, 50,000 less if
Right.
there are no
Right.
Regents exams.
Right.
Because of the proctoring administration, even the program itself, could be, but I'd be hesitant to say no to budgeting for that right now. Obviously, we haven't had Regents exams for.
It should eliminate them for good.
Well, until that's done.
Right.
And I'm sure the state will save a ton of money if they got rid of the Regents exams as well. But,
Yeah.
so that's really the placeholder there. As Isabel has, and we've discussed when we went through this, is a couple of these things could go when we get to that kind of clarity with the board, with the Regents, are we doing this or are we not? And that's kind of where it's at. So I know it's a big sticker shock. Thank you, Adam, for setting me up for this. My predecessor left it in great shape.
You got 300,000 from your budget as you were standing there.
Yes, he was gone in a second, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Just one thing to flag for the board. We had Tim just alluded to it. We did have a good academic committee meeting the other day.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of conversation, which I think in a subsequent board meeting or academic committee, we should follow up on just about summer school in general
Mhm.
and ways that should change in the future. And, looking at combination of Regents and online and other stuff like that for if credit recovery changes for people. So,
Maybe as we get along, after we go through some of these other student presentations, maybe we could do a presentation.
yeah, I think it's just like, it's just a discussion because if
I brought
We-
that to a group that some other, people in my assistant soups, and we were talking about some of that, just as we were.
Yeah, it was
discussing
it was just a very.
It was a great
very good
conversation. I have
to
a
have.
couple other people, they have the base guys, let's say, we were chatting. It was a good conversation that we
Yeah.
all like, wow, this is.
Like really sort of changing
Yep,
summer
yep.
school at the.
I think it's kind of the silver lining of COVID for lack of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be some good guys.
There's gonna be some opportunities.
Still looking.
Yes.
Still looking.
Mhm.
I gotta excuse myself.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, John.
All right.
Cindy,
So who's up
please.
next?
Cindy?
I can keep this.
Yeah.
You can see my-
Questions?
So, I looked at every part of this budget, I'm not Isabel's trying, cut where we could. The majority of the increase in the special ed budget is BOCES costs. Every year that has an increase attached to it, we have 2 additional students going to BOCES that are high-cost students due to a higher level of significant need or a higher number of significant need students. So do you have any questions specifically? You want me to go through everything?
No,
You don't
this-
have to go through everything. Like if there are any like overarching questions, you
Yeah.
just said I have a couple of questions, but like just what you just said with respect to BOCES costs, if you have any sort of thematic comments to tell us about your budget, that would be helpful.
We have an increase in, we've seen with COVID, as a direct result of COVID, there are some needs that students regressed because the significantly handicapped population did not do well, as we know, with remote instruction. A lot of them had substantial regression. 2 of the 2 students I'm talking about were in our in-district programs and now need to go to an out-of-district program because of that substantial regression. Those are high costs in terms of when you look at the cost of those students, but it's absolutely appropriate that they go to get the level of support that they need, but it is an increase in our budget, in my budget, our special education budget. Just looking here, contractual, I've worked really, really hard with most of the people that we use and the agencies that we use who we contract with to really not raise their prices with us. Some have never raised their prices in the 11 years that I'm here. Some have been even more since Rich Burns was here. Some had, we have an increase though in the amount of students who are receiving some of those services. augmentative communication, assistive technology, for our nonverbal students. There's more and more students in need of that each year, just because of the level of need that we're seeing. Consultants to come into our in-district program have been minimal because we're servicing a lot of the kids in district, but there are some things outside of what we can provide, like vision therapy. There's been a higher increase in students with vision needs, so we contract for that. But in terms of the contractual, let me just go to the page of contractual. I'll give you examples. Also, there's a stipulation in my contractual that's part of the contractual that's an increase in the budget. That's the first line, and that's line by line for the contractual on page 4.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
In the West Hampton Beach, how many students more you have in next year?
2,
2. So you're going from 6 to 8?
going from 6 to 8.
A lot of this is beyond.
Yeah,
What it is.
we have 2 students in middle school who really had a really tough time this year, and we really tried to keep them in district. And they can't handle it. They have social emotional needs and other needs, and that's just something that happens. You know, some years we have less students, that they can return to district, which is always a great thing. For example, just to give you an example, we used to have more students at Boise Sequoia, and we're able to support them in the high school instead of sending them really far on a bus. And that's been a really nice thing. But then the West Hampton Beach population has increased.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Sorry, Jackie, did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, you did all of that. And this is such a silly little item, but like, why are there fewer kids in that life skills class that we're reducing their food budget?
No, because some of that I cover with grant funds.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have some donations where people, give gift cards to certain stores because they want to support that program.
And our budget for like chief medical officer went way up. Is that because of COVID? Is that because that's what she's charging now, or how is that?
I always used to pay for the physical part of it, the chief medical officer's cost for like doing the physicals and organizing all of that. But then that used to be, I think it was in the assistant superintendent's budget, and then I took that over. But her cost
I think
did
it was
go
in
up.
Joe's budget, right?
It used to be, yeah.
It used to be a very, very small amount, but then what it said in the contract is she would bill for additional hours. So I went over this with Rich Burns, so what we decided on is a set fixed amount. Because it was, billing.
For that.
And as you can imagine, COVID, bill. So it
But
was.
some of this was in another budget, and that's why it's looking like yours went up, but actually it was all going out to her, but just in.
Yeah, it's more centralized this way because I help supervise the nurses and work with the nurses, and because of COVID, it was good that was centralized like that.
Right. So anyway, you're just saying that instead of billing for extra overage that we were ending up paying, you just consolidated and agreed on a cap rate.
Yeah, it was almost like a retainer. She had a small retainer, that was it used to be. And then it was she would just bill. And, one of the things we discussed with her last year, because she was, involved so much helping us out, is, make sure you're billing, because I think when she initially read the contract, she just thought it was a set amount, but the contract really is for all the additional services. So we said, wait a second, let's look at this and let's just do, here you go.
Okay.
It's right. I mean, and I must say, she has been nothing but
No
this year.
complaints. I'm just asking because it's a big increase. So that.
Yeah, that's what we did. We put it as a lump sum. So, anything above that doesn't matter. There's no way to bill us more.
Okay.
Anybody else, everything for? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Ms. Patterson with the Enl budget.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
So, the Enl department last year was asked to cut the budget 16%. And I was hoping to restore the amount back to the 2021 amount that we had, which was 46,628. Due to our increase in our L population, as well as the dual language program growing into the 3rd grade. So we have 2 more classrooms to set up and get materials and supplies for. And our L population has increased greatly. This winter, registration has slowed a little bit, and we did lose some students transferring out of the district, but at our highest point of growth in the year, we were up to 435 Ls, which is the most we've had so far.
So this makes sense with just the circumstances, so.
Yeah. Anybody have
I
any
don't really
questions
see anything
specifically?
that's-
I mean, it's
It's
like.
pretty
consumables.
straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward.
Right.
She just, I mean, Tiffany, this is just, you're putting back what was,
Right.
should have, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Right, it would be restoring to the previous year, and I kept the middle school amount the same. That building has actually remained very steady with the numbers. We saw the biggest growth in the elementary school and the high school.
Right.
And plus the dual
Fair
language
enough.
coming up as
Okay.
well.
Does anybody have any questions? for Tiffany?
No.
No? Good?
No, I mean, for people that are watching, if they are doing that on TV, I mean, it's like literally
You talk about,
books and consumables.
Right.
you talk about 16%, but it's $7,000.
Yeah.
Right, right.
This is a
Yeah.
tiny budget, considering the population of the
Yeah.
district that
No.
it
So
serves.
it's $46,000 budget.
Yes.
It's,
I mean, it's headphones, it's
Yeah.
books, it's educational stuff. It's not a lot. It's
Oh, yeah.
bilingual books for school library materials for classrooms,
all things that you need.
Yep.
workshops for parents and students, all very important.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
You're done.
Done.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make
Oh,
motion.
yes.
Second?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
All
Matt.
right, thank you. I'm ending the meeting.